Well, I thought I'd make a video about our recent, about Beth's recent adventures with her biking. If you've been following the videos, as I always say, and you'll see that Beth has found a sudden passion for riding the bike. Now, the trouble is that it seems to be a Filipina thing. They're very hard-headed. If you see this as a put down, sorry, you must be thinking of another place to live. In the Philippines, it is an accepted fact that the quiet Asian submissive female does not fit with a Filipino. They're very, very strong-minded and have their own opinions about everything, even sometimes about things that they don't know very much about. So, as a foreigner and so used to having to be kitted up, I would never dream of going on a bike without a crash helmet. And I got the best crash helmet that I could buy because it seems to me to be a very cheap insurance. I got a full face. Now, even some of the expats that I've spoken to don't like the full face because they say that they are claustrophobic, which I have to admit that they certainly are. They they take the pleasure of motorcycling down into a different kind of thing. It's almost, once you have that visor down and it's tinted, it's almost like playing a video game with extreme penalties. So I try to pass on all of those things, and I must admit that I'm prone to the same temptation as everybody else, in that this jacket I bought because I wanted to have that much more protection. But when you're actually off the bike and you're just walking around, it's very hot to have a jacket like this, and it's a bit of it's a chore to keep taking it off and putting it back on, and if you take it off, you're walking around with it over your arm, and so I can understand how they give themselves over completely to wearing their usual hot outfit. I don't mean that in the other hot, I mean when you're actually under the sun. So it's a real challenge to get this over to Filipinos, both men and women. It's normal here to ride 4 or 5 to a bike. I very rarely ride even 2 to my bike. Beth doesn't like this bike because the position for riding pillion is quite different. It's a lot higher, and so whereas my head would be about here, Beth is up here like this, and she doesn't like that. She feels too high and too vulnerable, so she doesn't tend to ride with me. So I've only actually ridden with 2 other people other than Beth. DC, when she was walking up the road, and she was with me right up to the house, which is about 1 kilometre, because it seems strange to pass her and not pick her up when they're used to 3 and 4 and 5 to a bike. So DC came with me for 1 kilometre, and I dropped one of our other students off in Talabong where she lives, and she was at the house. So that's it. Other than that, it's been Beth only. And oh yes, I've taken Lovely on the back with me as well, because she loves the bigger bike. But getting over and back to what's been happening. Beth has her way of treating everything as if it's a joke. And the hardest possible thing to get over to someone who is used to riding a bike and never having any protective gear on is really, really difficult. You know, for myself, I always ride in at least jeans. I've considered getting the heavier armoured stuff that you can buy. I bought this very cheaply on Lazada, and it's a leather jacket, not a very expensive leather, and it's made for motorcycling. There's no extra armament on it, no armour plating, which you can buy whole kits. But I'd feel like a space cadet if I was walking around Taliban in all of that stuff. So I sacrificed a little safety for style of the area. But I tend not to wear this jacket if I can get away with it. But with Beth's recent accident, she was at emergency room yesterday, and they told her yesterday, well, tomorrow you're going to probably be in a great deal of pain, which she is. But last night she was trying to convince me it's nothing serious, you know. I've just got some little scrapes and bruises, and she has one on the eye here, which to my way of thinking, because I try to think of everything that can go wrong and then allow us as much as I possibly can to avoid that. So if I think that you could be in, say, at a certain speed going through a certain area where there are where there's lots of stuff going on, and I think that driving through at 70 would be too much, I go through at 50, and that seems to be logical to me. But for some reason, the Filipinos don't think this way, and Filipinas even less don't think. So what happens here is that there's no training. Now, when I was in Florida, a friend of mine, Kathy, she decided that she wanted to go and ride motorcycles. So she applied, and she was told, she was guided to a place where she would have to take a course. And she took a course on starting, stopping, weaving between cones and all kinds of maneuvers that she would be expected to be able to do in the course of driving. What happens here is that Filipinos get on the bike and somehow they learn themselves, they fall off and they get back on, and they are quite fearless. But of course they don't realise from a foreigner's point of view, from my point of view, I'm trying to get over to Beth that she is in charge of a killing machine, a potential killing machine, and I don't think that's too dramatic. It can also kill her too, but it can also kill someone else. Every time I go on the bike, I will encounter a possible dangerous situation, and I drive accordingly. So when I'm on the national highway, which is my way to get to Taliban, when I'm on that, I know that it goes through various little barangays, which is like a small village on either side of the national highway, and it has to be negotiated, and you have to be aware that there are children walking. And when it gets a little bit later, like the evening now, this is actually evening right now, the darkness is actually falling now, the light's fading. But people have their own ways of living, their own lifestyle. I'm in a foreign country, and things are different here. They're a lot different. And I have to accept that and allow for it. So if riding is not the same as it is in the UK or in America, then I have to be responsible for the change. And that's the way that I see it. So I try to get that over to all of the girls. You think about the number of girls that that are in my life and Beth's life, all of our students, most of them, even if they don't own a motorcycle, can ride a motorcycle, but they haven't had any training as to how to have good sense. So here they drive without lights, they drive 4 and 5 to a motorcycle, they drive without a helmet, they drive in shorts and t-shirt and not even shoes, they drive in slippers. When Beth had one of her falls, the one before this one, she actually arrived home riding barefoot because in the fall she had actually lost her shoes. So it gives you an idea of how people look at motorcycling. The other thing is that depending on where you've come from, you can never understand how many motorcycles there are here. There may be 15 or 20 or more motorcycles shops selling motorcycles, repairing them, servicing, delivering, buying, selling, and there are literally thousands of solo motorcycles, and there are hundreds, possibly thousands of trikes, and the style of driving is completely different, and unfortunately so is the way of kitting up. You can see that I try to have every avenue covered. I know that you can easily injure your hands. In this last fall, Beth injured her hands, knee, she's got a bruise to the face, as I said, and her leg injuries go all the way down to the foot. So she's got a badly swollen knee and then abrasions all the way down, and abrasions to her hand. So this may look a little bit dramatic, maybe I'm looking for style, it's not true. This has reinforcements on the knuckle and on all of the fingers, enough so that it's the glove that takes the damage and not me. Same way for the helmet, same way for the jacket, the jeans and the shoes. Shoes, socks, everything. I've tried to cover everything, and I actually don't go out if it's raining. I'm a fair weather rider. So if you understand, if you're thinking of commenting and saying, please do comment, but saying, Terence, you have to tell them to be careful. You have to tell them to have a crash helmet. You have to tell them to, believe me, I've told them, and I've told them, and I've told them again. And DC Talent and BB and Beth and are lovely. They don't listen. After a while you have to throw your hands up and say everyone's responsible for their own safety. I can't be a policeman for every single person that comes in. I would be hated in no time. Which I let them decide for themselves, and I'll try to be some kind of a role model on that. And if they see me kit up, keep telling them, maybe someday, hopefully before they die, my standing joke now is, don't come running to me if you break your leg. And with that terrible joke, I will sign off. Thanks for being with me.